Welcome to Strange Planet. I finished watching the end of Star Wars Rebels after its fourth season. They finally completed the series, and it was an amazing, amazing send-off, an amazing ending. I really loved how they did. For those of you who are not that familiar with Star Wars Rebels, it is a cartoon series that came out in 2014, and it sets itself between episodes 3 and 4 of the Star Wars saga during the time of the Jedi Purge, when the Emperor had executed Order 66 throughout the galaxy and to have all the Jedi eliminated. But the story is really about one particular young chap called Ezra Bridger, who lives on a planet called Lothal. Sadly, under Imperial occupation, he tries to live a life on his own. He lost his parents early on to the Empire, and then he finds a new family in the form of an interesting lot. Kanan Jarrus becomes his big brother, friend, and eventually Jedi Master. Yeah, Kanan is a Jedi in hiding. He's been hiding since Order 66 was implemented, and he spends most of his time with this ragtag group of other folks just trying to steal stuff from the Empire. He didn't really want to get involved in any kind of rebellion or anything of that sort. He felt that he was defeated and that he was going to spend the rest of his days as pretty much a scavenger or a scoundrel. Kind of like Han. So along with him, there's this girl named Hera, who's a Twi'lek, and she, her and Kanan have this relationship going on, apparently. It's not quite clear in the beginning of the series when you first watch it, but as the series progresses, you do see that there's a romantic tie that obviously forms between the two. Then there's Sabine Wren, who is becomes one of Ezra's main closest friends. And she's awesome. She's a Mandalorian of that race, and so we get to see her story play out in this series as well. There's a droid, R2 unit of sorts called Chopper, who makes these weird sounds. It's not your conventional R2 unit, but he's great. He really helps the crew of the Ghost. That's the name of the ship they always fly around in, the Ghost. It's kind of like similar to the Millennium Falcon in the sense that it's not too big, and it's kind of like a smuggler ship of sorts. This series, especially towards the end, moved me in many ways. First of all, it brought back characters from all over the Star Wars universe. We see characters from the Clone War series from a few years back, before Lucasfilm was sold over to Disney. We see the return of Ahsoka Tano. If you know who she is, she was Anakin Skywalker's Padawan in the Clone Wars. She was exiled from the Jedi for a crime she did not commit, and she felt very disenfranchised by the Jedi to the point that after they realized they're wrong, she said, you know what, I'm out. She's back, and to help the Rebel Alliance against the Empire. There's a couple of former clone troopers, Captain Rex for one, who used to be a clone trooper who didn't go by the Order of 66, Order 66, because he had the chip removed from his head. There was an episode in Clone Wars where it was discovered that every clone had this chip in their head, that when the Emperor was going to execute Order 66 to eliminate all the Jedi, that it would do so. Not Captain Rex. There's so much more. Darth Maul is in this. Darth Maul shows up in this series, in Star Wars Rebels, in Season 2. It's amazing. But he doesn't call himself Darth anymore. He forsakes the Sith title because he felt betrayed by Darth Sidious, aka the Emperor. And he decides to go off on his own on a revenge quest to go find Obi-Wan Kenobi because he knows he's in exile hiding somewhere. Star Wars Rebels also brought in a character from what would be called, all you book readers out there, a character from the Expanded Universe novels. These are books that were written about Star Wars that what would happen after the events of Return of the Jedi years later, they actually closed that and made it non-canon anymore because of the whole acquisition by Disney and to kind of like recreate everything. This character's name is Grand Admiral Thrawn, and they pulled him out of that and brought him back into canon as being part of the bigger problem regarding the Imperial occupation of Lothal, Ezra's homeworld. What I like about this series is that it alludes, you don't really hear about the Death Star. What they mention in this final season of Star Wars Rebels regarding the Death Star is a project called Stardust. For those of you who saw Rogue One, Star Wars Rogue One, we know that Stardust was the secret code name for the plans of the Death Star. I'm going to be honest with you. When I, sat down to see the final moments of this series, I was blown away with it. It moved me. As a Star Wars fan, I got it instantly. I saw what it did with Ezra's character. Like, I saw in 4 seasons this kid grow from a boy into a man, and he became not just a man but a Jedi Knight. He really did. With everything that has happened to him and his friends in Star Wars Rebels as they try to fight the Empire and try to set free the people of Lothal from Imperial occupation, Ezra comes to a crossroads in this series. He has to make a decision. He makes it not once in this series, but twice. And he is spot on when he makes it. He grows up. This series is opening up a new thing about Star Wars that I don't think was ever really there before. But it's now expanding to something that I'm very much looking forward to discovering and learning about. We're learning about something called the Cosmic Force. Before the series, I didn't even know what that was. I'm like, what does that mean? I've heard of the living force. That I've heard. But the cosmic force? What is that? Apparently, it has a lot to do with the touching of time and space and the decisions we all must make as individuals that influence time and space of where the will of the force is to go. Ezra learns that the hard way. And he learns it even painfully. But what is amazing about it is that he has a family of people that love him very much, and they want to make sure that he stays safe, and he wants to make sure that they stay safe. However, there is an unbroken connectedness with this small ragtag group of rebels in this series to every other aspect of the Star Wars universe, both in the prequels, in the Clone Wars, even in the sequels. The graphics are amazing. Bright colored display of the cartoon that it is. I haven't been moved by a cartoon like this since when I was a kid, when I used to watch Robotech, the Macross saga in high school. This series did that for me. It moved me to that point. In this series, we saw Darth Vader, my favorite Star Wars character. He's in this series, and he faces off with his former Padawan, Ahsoka. She finds out the hard way who he really is. We also learn about the Inquisitors, these Force users that use the dark side. Not Sith, but Vader dispatches them across the galaxy to try to find and eliminate any remaining Jedi. Moving forward, there's a mission that Sabine and Ahsoka decide to combine their efforts to do. And that is to find Ezra and bring him home. Because Ezra made such a supreme sacrifice at the end that involved him leaving their side, leaving their presence in order to save Lothal. It was almost like a self-vanquishing to another realm or place where, honestly, none of us know where that is. But after a while, it became clear to Sabine, especially after the Battle of Endor, which she mentions at the end of the last few minutes of the series, how the Empire fell after the Battle of Endor. So we're already walking into unknown waters here. There's so much more storytelling to come. I don't think we've heard the last of Ezra and we haven't heard the last of Sabine. We haven't heard the last of Ahsoka Tano. I think her story is only just beginning. With the release of other anthology films coming out soon, like the Solo film, talk of the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, and the other films that are going to be coming out by both Rian Johnson and the creators of Game of Thrones, the ideas are limitless at this point as to what the will of the Force will play out to be in this galaxy far, far away. If you haven't seen it yet, sit down, go to your DVRs, check it out. For those of you who have been watching it, you understand where I'm coming from. The adventures have been amazing, the battle sequences have been to par, and the character development is amazing. What are your thoughts about Star Wars Rebels? Talk to me, comment below, and share with me what you think about Star Wars Rebels and where they're going to take this next in the future with the Star Wars universe. This is Ralph Perez from Strange Planet. Take care.